Hi, thanks for joining us today with our just all of these AMAs that we've been presenting in Tech Community Live. My name is Joe Lurie. I'm a program manager with our endpoint management team, Microsoft Endpoint Manager team, and I focus on deploying and managing all of your endpoints from Windows to Android, iOS. And I'm here with a lot of people that are going to help answer all your questions. We've had some great questions come up over the past, I don't know, what, Aria, maybe 15 AMAs so far. So just keep them coming. And I'd like to introduce my co-presenters with me here. And besides for the two that I'm going to introduce, we have a lot of people behind the scenes, not behind me literally, but behind the scenes, they're going to help answer your questions as well. So let's start off with Aria.
Hi, all. My name is Aria. I'm a program manager here at Microsoft, focused on commercial management of Windows updates. So whether you manage on-prem with Windows Server Update Service or in the cloud with Windows Update for Business and our new deployment service, I'm here to help you answer all of those deployment questions, along with, as Joe said, the brilliant folks behind the scenes who are going to make us look really good by answering 90% of your questions.
And thanks. And let's go to Harjit.
All right. So I'm Harjit. I'm a new recruit at Microsoft. I'm a customer engineer in Modern Workplace and basically focusing on Microsoft Endpoint Manager, things like Config Manager, Intune, those kind of things. And I focused a lot on patch management and things like that before, and I'm happy to be here.
Great, we're happy to have you. So one thing I'm going to ask you, I'm going to start right off with you, Harjit, before we even get to the questions. We talk a lot at Microsoft, and of course, I've been with Microsoft for about 8 years. I'm working on very close to my 9th anniversary, actually. And Aria lives for like updates, but you, as you said, you're new to Microsoft. Tell me about like when you came here, like even before that gold image versus modern deployment. Tell me about when you first joined here, like what your goal is to help customers get off that gold image, right?
Basically, my goal is to help customers move to the modern space, right? Like start leveraging all these cool things that we have. Obviously, Intune is the hot stuff, and and then Aria can speak about the latest and greatest, which is Windows Update for Business. I mean, it used to be so consumer based. But now it's changing. It's got a lot of features coming in. It's going to be great for managing patches and much more. In terms of like OSD kind of things, I also came from a background that had we used MDT a lot, right? Light touch and things like that. So you're using those golden images and then adding your packages and your applications and things like that. But all of that stuff now has just moved over. That's old stuff now. It's you use Windows Autopilot and various other ways.
Sure. And so we talked about Windows Update for Business. You mentioned that just a second ago. Aria, tell me about how like that can even help us go from one version of 10 to the next version of 10, or when we're ready to go to Windows 11. Let's talk about that for a minute too.
Yeah, of course. So one thing I'm really excited about is, I don't know if you saw it or not, we'll post it in the comment section in a second, is recently we actually announced the Windows Update for Business deployment service. And we're really excited because this embarks on a whole new technology. So instead of having your management service talk to the device and tell the device, hey, set these policies, which are then sent to the cloud, and to tell the cloud what to offer and what not to, we've actually made a service that talks direct to the cloud. So your management tool communicates directly with the service and controls the offering to the device. And we're really excited about that, not just because it's really neat and will change the way we're able to offer patches, but it's also the number way we're recommending you, especially if you use Intune today, to easily select, hey, I want to move to Windows 11 version 21H2, easily select it through the Feature Update Deployment Preview, and your devices will upgrade to Windows 11. Of course, this will be available at general availability. Now, if you're not using Intune today, that's okay. We recommend it, but we understand that there's other management tools out there. We forgive you, mostly. You'll still be able to do this with group policy, but you'll need to do a little bit more work to specify Windows Update Windows 11 21H2 in our target release product and target version policies. Or in Windows Server Update Service, you'll need to add the Windows 11 products category, sync it, and deploy the new Windows 11 21H2. As you can tell from these descriptions, it's pretty much identical to how you deploy new versions of Windows 10 today. The biggest difference here is you're going to see Windows 11 instead of Windows 10. Other than that, it's the same familiar management tools you're already using.
That's awesome. I love that we made it so easy like that. We do have a question that came in about Windows Update, and if a device isn't quite compatible for Windows 11, and the question reads, if we consider that a device is not fully compatible with Windows 11, will it be offered the upgrade via Windows Update?
That's a great question, and one that I think we care a lot about. So we talk about this new hardware floor a lot, of what devices are eligible and which devices aren't. And we know it sucks that some aren't going to be eligible for Windows 11. But the great thing to remember is the reason we're doing that is to keep devices more productive, have a better experience, and most importantly, have better security than ever before so that they can stay protected in this new workforce. Now, that said, we don't want all of the IT admins or all of the consumers out there to have to constantly be thinking, is my device supported? Is it not? Can I bring this to support? Can I not? That's terrible. So what we've actually done is bring some of that enforcement in box. So rather than you having to even think about it, your device can be targeted with Windows 11, and it will actually be able to determine by itself before ever being offered and wasting that download, that if it's sending telemetry, it won't ever be even offered Windows 11. The device will say that update's inapplicable for it, and you'll be able to use update compliance or endpoint analytics to be able to see, oh, Windows 11 is not eligible for that device. And so whether you're using our first-party analytics solutions or the scripts we're going to provide, you'll be able to see that those devices aren't eligible, and that'll explain why they didn't get offered Windows 11. Which, Joe, do you mind if I take one more second to talk little bit about the advantages of the cloud?
Yep, go right ahead.
One thing we love to pitch, and I really try to nail home with customers, is I love WSUS. Don't get me wrong. A lot of customers, I understand why you're on-prem and why you need to be, at least for now. But where you can move your workloads over to the cloud, I would do so. Even if it's just your quality update workload or your driver workload, or maybe all of your Windows updates and nothing else. If you move those to the cloud, you get some significant advantages, especially feature updates. If you didn't know it already, from the cloud with Windows Update for Business, we actually look at known issues. So if we have a significant portion of devices hitting some known issues on the box, what we'll do is add these things called safeguards. And the safeguards will protect that device from being targeted with a feature update if it has a known issue. And we'll actually wait and not offer that feature update until the known issue is resolved. Then it will offer it to ensure the device has a great update experience. And using our analytics solutions built into Intune or Update Compliance, you as the IT admin can actually see what's going on. So you know not only is the device not being offered because we're trying to protect it, but you'll be able to see when it is offered as well, and what the issue is we're protecting you from.
And not that we recommend it, but let's say there is a safeguard hold on my device, but I really want to test out my apps anyway. Is there a way that I can turn off that safeguard hold and then turn it back on when I'm done testing?
Now, I really don't ever recommend doing that. I really believe safeguard holds are there because we have verified that there is a high likelihood of your device being impacted negatively. And we're not doing it for fun. Like, these are serious issues that we're protecting you from. Mm-hmm. But if this is an IT admin device in your testing environment and you are purely doing it for verification purposes of maybe some other issue that you're trying to test out, yes, we do have a policy in our group policy and CSP set to disable those safeguard holds. Now, that group policy will not enable you to get around the hardware enforcement for Windows 11. We're still going to block you from upgrading your device to an unsupported state, since we really want to make sure that your devices stay supported and secure.
That's awesome. And I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to ask Harjit a question. But so when we're talking about that, let's just say I did actually turn off that safeguard hold. I upgraded to Windows 11, and I noticed that you were right. It doesn't work that well. Can I roll it back to Windows 10? I know I can use a rollback from 10 to 10, but can I also use it from 11 back down to 10?
Of course. You can, of course, use the rollback functionality built into our CSPs in Intune, or using Configuration Manager and on-premise management to roll back a feature update. So the same way you can roll back a feature update from Windows 10 20004 to 1909, you'll be able to roll back Windows 11 to Windows 10 in case you encounter any issues along the way.
Great. Thanks so much for that explanation. So Harjit, I'm going to ask you a question about MDT because you mentioned it, and then someone promptly started typing an MDT question. So there, and it's an MDT question, but it's also a cloud management question. As an org that uses Ivanti for endpoint management solution, can I say Ivanti? Should I say, as an org that uses a third-party management solution for endpoint management and MDT for on-prem provisioning, is Intune Autopilot the best path forward, ignoring Configuration Manager? Or in other words, should we disregard co-management and go right from our third-party on-prem solution right to Intune and Autopilot? What do you think about that, Harjit?
It's an interesting question. I think since they already have the management, the management tools, MDT will work when, the ISOs are provided at that point, whenever that comes out later this year. But definitely, I would say if you're gonna, if you already have Intune, use that as Aria has already explained before, how easy it is to upgrade, how easy it is to manage. It's just a one-stop shop, right, for everything. And, Aria has mentioned about, the safeguard holes, and I believe you were touching upon the KIR, right, the non-issue rollbacks. Yep. So those are some really cool safeguards that are there that, hey, if you're trying to upgrade, you're having these issues, it's smart enough to detect and say, I'm going to move you back to where you just came from. And then you can work with us to figure out, what are the issues you need to solve. And we talk, there was some mention about application compatibilities and stuff. Microsoft does offer the App Assure program, right? It's a fast track program that you can leverage, and they will test your applications for you. They'll help you make sure that they are compatible so you can get to Windows 11.
Harjit, did you catch Alex's talk earlier? I actually learned something really cool, which was apparently 97% of applications have actually been compatible across the two versions, which I thought was crazy. Like that percentage is huge out of the applications tested. Like that's out of thousands of applications too. And it's just, I don't know, crazy. Not part of the question, but I really think that sometimes we get lost in, oh, the specific thing doesn't work. And we didn't realize that 97% of the other things did. Exactly.
And, the way I find the main issues are, it's really with a lot of the legacy LOB applications, right? So when I came from, my previous org, that was one of those things, like, applications that were being used for a long time. The person that actually set it up has moved on. They're afraid to do the upgrade process, and it's like you're a year out before you can do these. But then they also introduce security issues. So it's one thing to not get your third-party applications up to par, meaning that you need to force your vendors to say, hey, you got to work with us. This is not, it's not going to work for our security posture in our organization. This is not okay. So what are you going to do to get us up to that? So it's a give and take with all of us, right?
Yeah.
One note, my behind the scenes folks have corrected me. I was incorrect in the 97% number. It's actually 99%. So apologies, math is hard, and we're actually doing better than I thought. So
I was actually going to say that same thing. It's 99.7% currently, I believe, that we're compatible.
So there was a 7.
There was a 7 in there, correct. But I also want to go back to the actual question on going from Ivanti and MDT and skipping over Configuration Manager and going right to Intune. When you use Configuration Manager, and Aria talked about this a little bit earlier, when you use Configuration Manager and then use that co-management capability and start moving workloads into Intune, it's so much easier than just going cold shutting down all your configuration manager stuff and turning on your Intune stuff. So I'm going to recommend that you have your on-premises and you have MDT. Yes, we absolutely want you to go to Autopilot. We want you to go to Intune. I would recommend actually going through moving some workloads, and configuration manager is the only one that actually does that. That management authority for this workload is configuration manager, while the management authority for this workload is Intune. With Ivanti and the other third parties, there's no, of course you can say I'm going to deploy software this way and updates this way, but there's no actual management authority. The agents aren't aware of each other. So to get back to the original question, yes, absolutely. Your path forward is going to be Intune and Autopilot, but how you get there is up to you. And we would recommend a configuration manager co-management to do that path.
Yeah. The best thing is that you don't have to deal with images. I mean, if you're using, Autopilot and stuff, you just ship the devices directly to your users. And now with, due to the pandemic, our world has changed to being, work from home, remote, and, work from anywhere, really. And that's the future that we have now. That's why, Microsoft and, Satya's messaging is about empowering every person on the planet and stuff like that. And that's what we want to do, right? So for me, from my experience, what being new to Microsoft, I can say that when I started, I got my packages shipped to me, right? I got all the bells and whistles that I needed. I just unboxed my Surface Book 3, put in my credentials, and boom, I was ready to go. I mean, literally. I had my applications, I had all my stuff. I didn't have to deal with any of those things. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. That's what we love about Autopilot. And for those of you that haven't tried Windows Autopilot yet, we absolutely want you to try Windows Autopilot. And I'm just going to plug something, and hopefully someone can add this into the comments just to let you know. If you don't know, we actually have a deployment lab kit to help you get started with Autopilot and with Windows 10 and eventually Windows 11 and using Intune. And that can be found at aka.ms deployment lab kit. All one word, deployment lab kit. And we'll put that into the chats here for you, just so you know, but that's an easy way to build out a lab without affecting your own network. So I'm going to start talking about something else here. And Arya, because updates are near and dear to you, and we've recently had, a big and out of band update that had to be pushed out. And we know that a lot of our customers are using deferrals so that so many people get it after a few days, and then, after a week, we're going to push it out to 50%, and by 2 weeks to 100% for normal patches. But what about when it's out of band? What do you recommend with the deferrals versus other technologies to get that out there? What do you think about that?
That is a great question, Joe, and I think all too relevant right now. As you said, recently we had the printer nightmare. Great naming, by the way, for the folks who name it in the media. Love it. Terrifying. Sure. I think that that's something that is so critical to understand, that we run an OS that runs on billions of devices across the world.
Wow.
Hey.
1.3, but yeah, billion.
1.3
sure.
is whatever, fine. 1.3 billion devices across the world. And we understand that with that comes the great ability of saying that this matters a lot, and that because of that, people will try different attacks or try to find vulnerabilities in the system. And sometimes there are vulnerabilities, such as this, that get found. And what is amazing is the speed at which we fix those issues and get them out. But when that happens, we know that the second that that is communicated online, that commercial organizations need to patch their devices. And so how do you do that quickly? And so one thing I'm super excited about, because it's been going on behind the scenes to get built for the last 1.5 years or 2, is the new Expedite feature that we just launched. It's currently in preview with Intune, and we're getting a lot of great feedback and huge amount of usage on it recently. But what's great about the Expedite feature is that you don't need to change your base policy set. You can keep your current configurations, your current deferrals, your current UX settings, but press one button and the number of days you want to install it, 0, 1, 2, and have that instantly go down to the devices to change how quickly they're going to get it. So the next time that they actually come up online, they will scan, they will download, they will install, and they will basically try to restart as quickly as possible. while still getting some of that compliance deadline good experience of notification, notification, notification force. And so to me, that epitomizes how do we stay secure, but do so without just bombing devices. Because I know those in ConfigMan, you can also deploy a patch with ConfigMan like that. Totally can. However, your experience in doing so to your end users might simply be, here's a 15-minute notification, you're forced, thank you, that was great. So this really is a compromise and enables you to do so with Intune and Windows Update for Business without having to change any of your configurations. So we're super excited about that. And the best part is we're really looking for feedback. So folks should try it. And I will put in the comment section how you can actually reach out to us if you have a problem with it, so that you can just reach out and tell us, hey, it was a great experience. Hey, this issue happened, and we can fix it for you.
The expedite feature is really awesome. I mean, it like you said, you don't have to change your current policies, like your deferrals and stuff, which I think people were kind of stuck with. Like, well, but wait, I have deferrals for 5 days out or 7 days or whatever. But now we got this emergency patch, and you got to change this. Well, this expedite feature does that for you. I mean, push it out, and sure, you can do it with Config Manager as well. But you gotta it's a bit more tedious. You have to, create a new software update group for it, a new deployment, and then rush it out and make sure your client settings are set for the appropriate reboot schedules and stuff. And otherwise, you're gonna, like Arya said, you're gonna get someone rebooting in 15 minutes while they are teaching a class or something,
Sure.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it is. And funny story about the Print Nightmares. I got a lot of emails internally, people asking me, hey, is Print Nightmare included in July updates? And we call that the C updates, the July 7C updates, which I'm going to ask you to talk about that as well. We have a blog post that we posted this morning to discuss that. And my first reply was, yes, Print Nightmare was included in 7C. And then I replied back saying, no, the fix to Print Nightmare was included in 7C. Print Nightmare itself was not included in 7C. But let's talk about 7C. What does that mean? Like when I say 7C versus, I meant 7B anyway, not 7C. But when I talk about 7B versus 7C, what does that even mean?
The C week and the B week?
Sure, but let's talk about that.
I think that it's actually really interesting how we have all of this nomenclature. And one thing I've loved is, at least I've been at Microsoft now for a little over 3 years. And one thing I've really loved is the change in transparency that we've had over that time. We used to not document anything, like known issues or safeguard holds or things like that, current status. Those things were just kept internally. And when we put out an update, that is when you would find out via KB article what happened, which is just a knowledge-based article. And now we have the aka.ms Windows Release Health page, where you can see all of these known issues. You can see safeguard holds, you can see current status, you can see the things that we fixed. And it's crazy because we even show you things like workarounds and root causes. And we're really taking that transparency seriously. And one thing in the article that you're talking about we shared today is even more of what are each of the updates we're doing. Because we do a lot with servicing technology behind the scenes to say, how can we improve it? How can we validate fixes? How can we put out a quality release? How can we reduce downtime? And so one thing a lot of people don't know is we have these optional updates, C updates, basically these updates that happen the third week of the month-ish that contain all of the non-security and non-critical fixes and content that ends up flowing into our B security Patch Tuesday updates, whatever you prefer to call them. And what's really cool, because our updates are cumulative, the way this actually ends up breaking down is all of our non-security, non-critical fixes go into these optional updates. And then about 2 to 3 weeks later, they flow into our security updates, which are recommended, get published to the world, and are the ones that you as an organization likely deploy fairly quickly within typically a 2-week SLA to all the devices in your organization. So one shameless plug here, as someone who reps the Windows Insider Program for Business very heartily at every opportunity I can, I will tell you, you can use the Windows Insider Program for Business to always take these optional quality updates. And it's great because a majority of those things that go into the security patch are actually already there in these optional quality updates. since security fixes make up a smaller percentage of that security patch than the non-security fixes and non-critical fixes that we make. And so when we talk about C updates or optional updates, that's really what we mean. And that's what this blog will go into more. We have a lot of other fancy things that we've been doing to try and experiment on how we can service like known issue rollbacks, which can turn off velocity keys for features that have issues, like feature experience packs, like a different undocked payloads, and all of these things, which really are just fancy terminology to say, how are we shipping? How do we improve quality? And what can we do to make sure you get the best content, the best transparency, and things that you need when you need them? Harjeet, I think you probably had something to add based on your smile, so I'll hand it to you.
Yeah, so this is really interesting topic and so timely because I've done sessions on patching at Ignite and and other conferences as well, and with our former colleague Dune, and who was the endpoint manager guy.
Dead to us now.
Yeah,
don't mention
for those of you that are listening, Dune left us a little while ago. By left us, I mean he left Microsoft. He's still on this earth, so we don't talk about Dune anymore. That was before Harjeet joined. He didn't get that. He didn't get that memo.
So this is really interesting because this week I'm actually doing an essentials educator training, an internal training thing, and this is one of the topics I'm actually presenting to them, and I was covering about the A, B, C, and D weeks, and they looked at me and they're like, "What is that?" I said, "Well, it's easy. I mean, we all know everybody knows Patch Tuesday. That's all they know, but they don't realize patches come out on different weeks and different things. A week is like generally the office updates, that come out a week before Patch Tuesday. The B week is the actual patches, right? C and D weeks, as Aria talked about, these are the preview quality updates that are basically there for you to do testing. Test in your environment, test in your small scale, make sure nothing blows up, and if there's any issues, report back, right? So they can quickly fix stuff. And then these C and D week patches, they get rolled eventually into the following month's Patch Tuesday, as just exactly what Aria said earlier. So it's good stuff. It's definitely try it out. Another thing is like there's we have a resource called Windows Release Health that is really, really useful. I'm not sure if it's already posted in the chat here.
We just posted that in the comments, and Aria mentioned just a few minutes ago. Sure.
Yeah, right. So that's a great resource for people to have. I mean, it covers the known issues and health issues and things like that, and announcements. Definitely bookmark that, save it, and you're gonna like it. And another thing I want to touch upon, like we were talking about upgrades and stuff like that, right? We were talking about MDT and stuff like that. I mean, maybe you're going to cover this a little later, Joe, but I'll jump the guns here. But Windows Insider, the dev channel, that's where people can test out Windows 11 right now. I mean, even on devices that actually are not compatible, you can still put it on. You can still play with it. You can still, so that's another way for you to get your hands on Windows 11.
Yeah, thanks. It's a great plug too for the Windows Insider business. And Aria said that she's a big fan of that. It's one of her products. And sure, we, even internally at Microsoft, we had to join. A lot of you out there don't realize we didn't get early access to Windows 11 unless we were in not even just Windows Insider, but a special internal tented channel for Windows Insiders. We could play with Windows 11, and thank you very much. I was one of those that was lucky enough to have it for about a month before my friends here. But Aria, talk about the Windows Insider program and just the kind of support. How do they join it? What do they get when they join it?
Yeah. So if you're not already part of the Windows Insider program for business, it's really easy. Go to Bing and type in Windows Insider Program for Business. Click the first link and join. Now, what do you actually get? So what is the Windows Insider Program for Business? Well, one, it is in some ways a wrapper for just the Windows Insider Program, but there's a few key differences. Every release, we have this thing called a commercial pre-release moment. And the commercial pre-release moment is where we actually announce, hey, this version is ready for you, IT admins, to not only test, but potentially deploy to 1% of your fleet or your organization. It's reached that level of stability. And not only that, but we are going to make it available via Windows Server Update Service in the Windows Insider pre-release category, Azure Marketplace for those of you using Azure Virtual Desktop, or Azure Marketplace to deploy VMs, through ISOs for those of you who want to use any third-party management software or deploy ISOs directly, and through Windows Update for Business for those of you deploying with Intune, as well as through the settings page as per normal. Additionally, at that time, what we do is we make it available for things like you can see in analytics, how is it doing? You can see in terms of Aperture. If you run into an app issue, we're actually going to be able to give you, hey, here's Aperture's email. Email them, tell them this app doesn't work.
99.7% of apps work. You won't run into an issue.
0.03% of you will have to do this. For those of you who have issues, we're actually going to make support free and available to you at this commercial pre-release moment. And so that's part of what the Windows Insider Program for Business means. You also get emails and blogs that tell you all of the differences and deltas in each of the updates. And so at the end of the day, you can start testing now. It's available in the dev channel via Windows Update. Do it, go, test, explore. We'll have the commercial pre-release moment later this summer. Keep testing, explore, deploy on even more devices. See how awesome it is. Get all of those bugs fixed pre-release that are going to impact your organization. And then by general availability, you'll be ready to deploy. So when the people at your organization come to you and say, hey, we really want this update, or come to you and say, hey, like I need a new device, you'll be able to easily and confidently give them a new device running Windows 11 and manage the quality updates for it in Windows 10 seamlessly across your organization and feel pretty confident in doing so, which as the IT admin is kind of the main goal, to feel confident that the updates you're deploying to your users will work, keep them productive, and not get you in trouble.
Sure.
The most important thing is to give feedback. Make sure you submit your feedback and, tell us what is working and what is not working. What do you like? What do you like changed and stuff like that? You want to move your buttons to the left or to the right,
It's funny, and you had mentioned something which I just left my mind for a second. But Harjit, I'm going to ask you. Oh, here it goes. So we're talking about join the Windows Insider program and for business, and probably we know. And when I was an IT admin, I did this. I just talked about it just now. I had the new stuff, and I could test my stuff, but I'm not using that accounting software, that line of business software, that critical software. I personally know that Windows works great on my device. At the time, it was Windows XP to Windows Vista to Windows 7. So I know that it worked on my device, but I didn't know that it worked with all those critical applications. So Harjit, when you were an IT admin, just before coming here, did you, like only your friends and family, like people in IT got the new stuff, or did you have testers in accounting and sales and HR and, you're a school system, right? So did you have different areas of the school testing, or was it really just friends and family of IT?
That's a great question. Really good question. So I generally did all I grabbed all the latest and greatest. That's what I always like to do. But then I empowered other people and generally other IT departments, the smaller mom and pop shops, around campus. And because they are the ones that actually work directly with their little, end users. And for example, the admissions department will work with certain type of line of business apps and stuff like that, right? So I empower them and I give them the resources and, set them up with either VMs or things like that, or even a separate device and say, hey, here's an older device, just play with it, put your stuff on it, let me know. We've come across where, there was certain patches, like for example, a .NET patch that broke a line of business app. And we were like, hey, this is interesting. Like no, I can't stop this patch from deploying because it's a really critical patch for security reasons. But let's talk to the vendor, and the vendor says, oh yeah, we have this fix. You need to upgrade to this version. You're using a very old version, but the department just could not do it in time, right? Because like I said, people had left and things like that. So we had to do some isolation, and then they had to work with the vendor and eventually got it solved. So yeah, you can do that. That's what I did, is like, set up devices for them or set up a VM environment for them, and get things tested that way.
Cool. Yeah, it's exactly the way it should be. And again, I know that when I was an IT admin, it was friends and family of my team that got the new stuff. And then we learned that, oh, this software doesn't actually work. I'm going to change gears a little bit, and Arya, I'm going to ask you about enablement packages. We start in, first I'd like you to define it, but we started these enablement packages going from Windows 10 version 1903 to 1909. And then we said, okay, and now we want you to upgrade to 2004, and you have to do a full upgrade, but then an enablement package to 20H2. And then, so talk about enablement packages. We actually have a question on here. Is there a set of previous versions or a number of previous versions that enablement package will be good for? Like, is it just the one, like 1903 to 1909, 20H4 to 20H2? Is there a set number? How do those work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, enablement packages, and what are they? So enablement package is really just this fancy term for a package that comes onto the device and flips a bunch of keys to on. What do I mean by that? Well, every month we deliver these security patches and we deliver these quality updates. And these quality updates contain a variety of fixes and things like that of that nature. Occasionally, they will also contain features in an off state, which is really just payload that is there but not turned on whatsoever. And what happens is this will get deployed over a period of time. What then happens is these features are all turned on as part of an enablement package, meaning they have no impact whatsoever in the version, for example, 1903. But when that enablement package comes on and ups the version number to 1909, these features are all turned on at once. So you all of a sudden see all of these new features and capabilities on that version, but you only experienced about 5 minutes of downtime, and your device will actually have about the same exact app compatibility rate as it did on 1903. Because really what's happening is you share the same core OS across the two versions. Similarly, 20.004 was a brand new OS swap. It's got a whole new OS version that came in on top of and replaced the 1903 OS swap version. And so for 20.004, it's an OS swap, which means you probably experienced a little bit more time going from 1903 or 1909 to 20.04, or to 20H2, 21H1 if you came from one of those lower versions. Now, 20H2 and 21H1 share the same core OS as 20.004, which means at this point we've released 3 versions that all share the same core OS and all share pretty much the same app compatibility rates and same known issues from that perspective. But each have a different set of features turned on because there's a different enablement package for 20H2, which turns on one set of features, and 21H1, which turns on those set of features and additional features. And this is pretty cool because what it enables us to do is ship one core OS and then add slowly more features on top of it. Now, when we're talking about these enablement packages, you're going to see that they only let us get so far. Moving to Windows 11 is going to be a full OS swap again. And so when you're thinking about these enablement package upgrades, you would really say that, okay, every time I have to move to a new OS swap, that's going to have a set of things on top of it. For example, 20.004 can easily upgrade to 20H2, 21H1, 21H2 via the enablement package routes. But to get to Windows 11, it'll be an OS swap. And so that's kind of the way you want to think about it. Again, this is just one of the many servicing technologies we've been exploring and experimenting with over the last 2 years to try and figure out how we can improve the update experience for our customers.
And what I like about that, you said, 2004 to 21H1, 20H2, 21H1, but you don't have to actually do it like that. It's you can go from 2004 to 21H2 when it's available with a single enablement package and still have that same 5 minutes of downtime, which is awesome.
Exactly. That's basically what I did at my previous organization. That's how I did. the upgrades from 2004 all the way up. And I mean, enablement packages is like the great invention ever. I mean, it's the best hot sauce out there. Like really, it's so quick. It does everything behind the scenes. And, you're talking about like maybe a one reboot, right? And it's not the whole, whole OS that's being downloaded and installed. So think about enablement packages like lights in a house, right? You got all your lights, but you're only always using your living room and your kitchen. But you know what? You go upstairs maybe once and the lights are there. You don't have to change the light bulbs or anything like that. You're just flipping switches and boom, here comes brightness, right? So same same concept. It's just that all of this stuff is just dormant. They're not, you just need to flip the switch. That's awesome. It's great.
So Arya, you mentioned that's just one of the many servicing tools that we have. And Harjit, I know you and I have talked about Configuration Manager and servicing Windows with Configuration Manager. And of course, we have in-place upgrade task sequences, and we have the servicing node and the cloud nodes and Configuration Manager. How do you recommend going using, if let's say I am still using Configuration Manager, I haven't made that jump to the cloud yet. What's the best way for me to go from one version of 10 to the next version of 10? I'm not even going to worry about Windows 11 just yet. I want to upgrade all my devices that are still running 1909, and I want to upgrade them to 21H2 when it becomes available. What's the best route in Configuration Manager for me to do that?
The easiest way is to use Windows 10 servicing, which is built into Config Manager. It's right there for you. You don't have to deal with task sequences, right? It's basically updates or that come from Windows updates, but now it's inside Config Manager. And there are enablement packages. You can search for, go to the Windows 10 servicing node and then search for, let's say 21H1 or 21 whatever, right? And it'll give you all the different languages and whatnot. And it'll show you how many devices you have that can be upgraded to that version. It'll say thousands of something or 300 of something, whatever. So you can, it's so visually, appealing. It's there right in front of your face. Enable it, download it, set it, and forget it. The other option now, the latest option with the latest Config Manager is the new task sequence. So when you do upgrade task sequences before, you had to use the WIM files, right? The upgrade packages and whatnot. Now what you can do is you can leverage these task sequences, but point it to one of the Windows 10 servicing packages, if I'm using the right terminology here. Basically, that's what you're doing. But with the task sequences, the difference between task sequences and the Windows servicing, you have more options, right? If you want to add different things and you want to, add another application and things like that, you have more granular control. So if that's what you like, leverage that.
Sure.
Speaking of more granular control,
I was just going to ask you, I think you're going to talk about drivers and firmware, right? Upgrading those. Yeah. I was just going to ask you to spend the last 5 minutes of this session talking about that.
In part, I also want to say, mostly just cutting in because task sequences are things of the past, or should be. Really, really, really hoping that they should be in the past. Now, that said, we actually have added a lot of granularity and we're super excited about it. One cool feature that's going to be coming soon, shh, it's not a secret, but still shh, is we're adding new controls to enable you to, instead of moving all of your Windows Update workload to the cloud or keeping all of your Windows Update workload on-prem, we're enabling you to move only a specific classification to the cloud at the time. So let's say you feel comfortable managing feature updates on-prem and managing everything that's not Windows related on-prem. But you've realized that we just announced our new driver and firmware preview in Intune for actually managing which drivers get deployed to devices. And you think it sounds amazing because it does sound amazing. And honestly, if you haven't looked at that blog yet, I would check it out. It's some of the coolest work to be done, in my opinion, and most needed in years, especially related to drivers and firmware. So check it out. But we're going to add capabilities to enable you to move only your driver's workload or only your drivers and quality update workload to the cloud. and manage them with our new Windows Update for Business deployment service in Intune at the same time as managing everything else on-prem. And this is great because you're now going to be able to have the best of both worlds, truly taking advantage of our cloud-attached co-management, really hybrid, not hybrid workforce, but hybrid environment of managing from the best of both. And really this takes advantage of all the AADJ, all of the cloud management tools, and still allows you to have that same control on-prem that you maybe feel you need to have. And so that's one thing I just really wanted to get across and let you all know about as we go forward of, hey, Windows 11 is going to be amazing. And as you try it out, you'll also get to try out all of these great functionalities that'll make managing Windows 10 easier, Windows 11 easier, and both at the same time, even easier than ever. Joe,
And
back to you.
I was just going to say, while we're still on you, why don't you, really, we're down to the last couple minutes, so why don't you go ahead and give us your final thoughts, unless those were your final thoughts, and say goodbye, and then we'll hand it over to Harjit.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts are really just, everyone, please sincerely think about what's best for your organization and your environment. Take the next bit of time to plan, review, check out what's new in Windows 11, check out the security improvements, deploy it on a dev device even, and see, hey, how is this? What is it going to mean to my organization? Think about hybrid work and how moving to the cloud and moving your management to the cloud might be able to help you, even if that's only moving one workload over. Think about the security improvements you can get by going to Windows Update for Business for patching. Think about all of the things that you can do to evolve with our workforce who is suddenly going to not just be in the office, but be dispersed all over. And think about how Windows 11, Windows Cloud PCs, how all of the new improvements are going to help you to do that. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. So you can ask us questions at one of our future AMAs or reach out to us on Twitter and Tech Community.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Arya. Harjit?
Well, I think she said it all. And all I can say is, thanks for being with us today, and follow us on Twitter and the Tech Community, and reach out. I mean, if we can help, we'll be there.
Thanks. And finally, just, again, I'm Joe. I didn't get to actually say anything except for read questions and lead them into questions. So I want to thank you for putting up with me. Again, the least important person in the room, because they had all the information to share. So thanks so much. We've had a lot of fun all day. We actually have one more session coming up right after this, so I hope you can join us for that as well. But we've had fun all day with this Tech Communities, with all the AMAs, all these live events. So make sure, you can go back and still view the comments from before. Make sure you join us in the office hours. Keep an eye on Tech Community for all the blogs. We mentioned a blog that got posted earlier today. We actually had 3 blogs posted on Tech Community earlier today. So make sure you go back and take a look at those as well. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those links have been put in into the comment section here. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope to see you at least in a couple of minutes. And if not, I hope to see you at the next time.
Cheers.